Like the Real Housewives of Max Verstappen up in here.
Checo's checked out.
Joe Guanyu is off the track. That steak is cooked.
A lot, I gotta say, a lot is at stake for Steak F1.
Man, even the broadcast couldn't handle that stat.
My heart almost was screaming like, how can anybody be a Lewis Hamilton fan?
No.
Not on my 2024 bingo card.
Yeah, you're gonna have to create a new one now.
Hey guys, and welcome back to Lights Out Latest. My name is Marina, and I'm here with Jason, Tristan, and Steven. We are at full capacity of squad. Everyone's back, finally. I'm so excited to talk about this race because I think there's so many big talking points. Before we get into that, as always, breaking news. This one's less of news and more of just a quick comment about Antoine. There was all the tributes that Pierre, for people that don't know about Antoine Hubert, check out my Fun Fact Friday. But what do you guys think of the tributes? And, you know,
I thought they were cute. I mean, like, I'm glad that they do it yearly now. I mean, ever since the unfortunate tragedy. But yeah, I mean, Pierre like spearheads the tributes, doesn't he, for him? Or is it like kind of a group effort? Okay. Yeah.
I think Leclerc was also pretty close with him too.
Yeah.
But Pierre, I believe, was the closest.
Yeah. So it was very nice, very sweet to see.
Yeah. Absolutely. I think
it's so interesting is that the crash, the other guy who got severely injured, Juan Manuel Correa, he's already back in Formula 2 after 5 years, which is insane recovery. You know, normally your career would be over after that, but he's recovered. Thankfully, nothing like too crazy. He's still able to drive. Great to see him racing again, but I'm sure it must be emotional for him too, knowing that the other guy didn't make it. But.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I always think about like what, especially Pierre. I mean, we talk about it like Pierre in Spa. We talk about Charles when it comes to Suzuka with Jules Bianchi's death. So I always think about like, what do you think about when you're going through the same corner where your best friend died or your godfather died? Like, how do you do that? Like, if I was Charles, I would never be able to go flat out through those corners because it would just be constantly in my head. And I know they're athletes, but that's always like in the back of my head. It's like, how do you do that? Like, how do you still race at this track?
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many talks. There's so many talks back then. Like, is Spa safe? Is Eau Rouge safe? Should we add a chicane right at the bottom before they go up to slow them down? Like, there's talks of a lot of that. And honestly, as historic as it is, you know, historic doesn't mean safe always. So it was a little bit weird to see maybe we would lose one of the most iconic corners in motorsport. But, you know, people say it's just racing, and sometimes, you know, as safe as we can make the cars, they're never going to be 100%.
Yeah. I battle with this a lot. It's, in my mind, when these tragedies do happen, it's a tragedy. It's a shame. It should never happen again. You don't want it to happen again.
Yeah.
But you also have this idea of we kind of are one of the most dangerous sports you can participate in.
Yeah.
It's motor racing. You're strapping yourself to basically a missile, going around the course trying to, you know, beat other people, go as fast as possible. And I mean, fundamentally, that is increasing your risk of danger mentally, you know, just 10 times. So it's one of those deals where, you know, like, Eau Rouge, like it's a sketchy track, sketchy part of the track. And Belgium has always they've been in talks for a while about changing it. But do you keep that risk? Like, it's kind of just part of the sport.
Yeah.
You are volunteering to go, and honestly, it's these warriors are basically going into a gladiator and fighting for glory. Like, it's essentially what's happened. You know? And
there's only so much you can do.
There's only so much you can do. And to go off of what Marina was saying, and little connection that I know is because Dale Earnhardt Jr., he lost his father. He was in the race with his father at Daytona, and then he had to go back to Daytona that same year. And he said that how he healed is he went to Daytona a week before and stayed at the track for the whole week, just trying to find like that spirit in him to be like good. Yeah. And then when the race came and he was in the race, he said 2 or 3 times past that corner, he kept thinking, oh, that's where Dad died, you know? But then after that, it just kind of, he just got into his groove and just kept doing it. Just kept racing. So.
Yeah.
I saw a podcast not that long ago with Charles Leclerc, and his brother Arthur raced in F2. Now he's racing GT and endurance and stuff. And he was talking about how when he is racing, when Charles is in the car, there is not one bit of him that is scared ever. There's no fear.
Yeah.
It's a sport, like you said, it's very dangerous, and they accept that danger, that risk every time they get in the car. But when he was talking about when it's me in control, there's no fear. But when Arthur is racing, then he's scared shitless, pardon my French again, but like he's so scared for him because he can't control it, right? I mean, you have to trust that
it reminds me of the clips of
make it,
Yeah, it reminds me of the clips. I mean, it was at Spa too when Verstappen drove his dad in a GT car, and his dad the whole time is like, "Slow down, hold on, brake," and it's because he's not in control. Even though Jos, his dad, was an F1 driver.
Come on, we're all like that.
Max is driving.
I feel like every time I'm in the car, I think everybody has this a little bit, just driving normally. You're like, I would have done that differently. I would have braked before the stop sign a little bit more or something like that. Every time you're like the bystander, it's like, okay, what the hell is going to happen now? So, I mean, I feel like it's the same for those guys as it is for us in a little bit.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Overall, it was a really cool tribute. What I didn't like was the people commenting constantly on every single post related to the tribute. It was like, where was this driver? Where was this driver? And I want to say this because I resisted the urge so much not to comment and like be really angry at people. But like, this is taking place during a media day. Every team has a different schedule. So if Lewis can't make it, it's not because he didn't want to be there, probably. 99%, I'm pretty sure he would want to be there. I know he knew Antoine. They all knew Antoine. They all, a lot of them also knew Delano, who was also being honored, the Formula region, European regional, I think it was, who died last year. So it's not like they didn't want to be there. They just, they have other things. They can't, and people were just so mad. They're like, where's Max? Where's Lewis? And I was like, guys, can we just not talk about this and admire the beauty of it? Like,
let's not worry about attendance here.
Exactly.
There are bigger things at hand.
Yeah, people are busy. I mean,
life happens.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's talk team principals now. I've titled this Team Principal Musical Chairs because there's a lot of
Oh, gosh.
What did you make of Bruno Famin announcing he's leaving? How does this bode for Alpine in the future?
It'll be interesting, I feel like. I mean, Alpine is always, especially in recent years, I feel like this year especially, they've been a team that's been highly scrutinized. And to have their team principal leaving, I mean, I think it opens a lot of doors for them. I don't know. I mean, it'd be interesting too. And I think the other big thing is too, I don't know if you guys know this, how that Renault is talking about leaving the sport as an engine manufacturer.
Yeah.
And so that's a big thing with Alpine too. I think they're looking at, what is it, Mercedes, I think, as their engine
Yeah, I've heard of that.
Yeah. So, I mean, with their team principal leaving and a new engine manufacturer coming in, I mean, there's a whole world of that. And, of course, Esteban Ocon being rumored to leave, too. I mean, this team's going to be, damn near rebuild. So, I mean, it's going to be interesting.
But when haven't they been in rebuild? There's been so long. They came back in 2016 with Frederick Vasseur at the helm. And then they went to Ciro Beatable, who honestly did a pretty good job. But they weren't winning. So they're like, oh, he's gone. And then it's just been downhill since then. Alonso saw the smoke, and where there's smoke, there's flames. He got out quick. Otmar was fired at this race last year. Was his last race too. And Otmar, for anybody who doesn't follow him, he's hilarious. He always does like selfies wherever he's at, like total dad selfie. Like imagine that. That's him. He's like, see my son play at golf, because his son plays for Dartmouth Golf. Or like not in Singapore this week when it was the Singapore race last year, and like took a photo of himself like in Vegas or something. Like, go give him a follow. He's funny. But onto my opinions on it is, I hope they sell the team. I don't think they will. They've had a history of coming in and out of the sport. Like in the sport, out of the sport, in the sport, out of the sport. They're in it, and then they left. They sold it to Lotus, but then they're still an engine manufacturer, and then they came back. And just looks like the cycle of Renault's like half commitment continues. There's more rumors of Toyota though entering the sport, but we're talking about team principals, and I wish Bernardo would have taken the helm. That would have been chaotic.
Yeah, but Bernardo is taking the helm at Audi, which I think is going to be so interesting. I loved how Tom Tom in the press conference asked Carlos, he goes, does this change your decision? Like, does it make it harder or easier to decide whether or not you want to go to Audi? And he was like, you're so predictable. And he didn't really answer the question. He kind of just gave props to Matthias, saying that, he's a great guy, racing principal, whatever, but didn't really say, like, I like him, I don't like him, like I'm going there or I'm not. So I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know, man. Alpine's going to be interesting to see the next few years.
Yeah.
Sauber and Audi is having their own issues. They fired the two guys, Seidel, which I was really surprised because he was
absolutely.
Porsche man. He helped the resurgence of McLaren, and he went to Audi. I was like, oh, the German motorsport boss reviving and bringing Audi into the sport with a team that already has decent facilities. Like, this could be a total awesome project for him. And he's gone. There's no word, no like, huge like bye, goodbye. It was like immediate, like, oh, we got the Ferrari clown back. All respect to Mattia, he is actually a killer engineer. He made that 2019 Ferrari was so good.
Yeah.
But anyways, I don't know who they're gonna put under him. They still apparently are gonna hire a team principal. And people are saying it's Mike Crack. They're taking him from Aston Martin. It would be funny if he called up Gunther Steiner, but Haas has been so much better this year with Au Komatsu. Like, he's killed it. He's fixed their upgrade schedule. Like, they're fighting for 6 genuinely in the championship. It's insane.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
They've
Haas
been
is
really
kind of
consistently fighting for points, which is really nice to see, given the home fan support. Anyways,
Haas is definitely kind of tarnishing Gunther's image right now by showing they're actually kind of a capable team, even though all the years that he was in charge there, they were not. So
yeah, now Gunther's asking the questions.
The only thing I will say is, like, I think the original car from earlier in the year, and maybe even the first or second upgrade, is probably still Gunther. Because, those things are planned so far in advance that when he left, I feel like some of these things we can still attribute to him. Obviously, Ayukamatsu has done a lot for the team. I think a lot better, but there's still a little piece of Gunther. And Gunther is still hilarious. That's still his number one trait. Like, I don't think we need him in the paddock continuously for, like, interviews or something.
Yeah.
For real.
Yeah, has been, but just not on American TV. He's always
on German TV.
Some other German, Austrian, Italian TV. What is pretty funny, though, is he made it into the movie. He made it in the Apex GP movie. So, good for him. We'll see him on the big screen next year.
Well, I think most drivers and a lot of the team principals made it into the movie, but Gunther made it into, like, the trailer.
Oh, okay.
So, I don't know. It's interesting. Where do you think Andrea Seidel is going? Is he done?
I don't know, man.
If Mike Crack goes to Audi, I bet he goes to Aston Martin. Unless Otmar gets a call back. But Otmar left on his own accord from Aston, it sounded like. I listened to a couple podcasts with him. He's like, yeah, Aston was kind of a mess. The new management structure added an extra layer above me. Same thing with Alpine. He's like, oh, they just started removing my responsibilities week over week until they fired me. So it's kind of like, by the last race, he was barely steering the ship. He just kind of showed up, said hi to the media. The media said, how'd you fumble Piastri? And then he went to hide. And that was like his schedule for last week. So.
Yeah.
Man, Piastri's going to haunt him.
Yeah,
I'm sure.
It's going to translate to like the next Toto Wolff Max Verstappen situation.
Yeah, absolutely. I
Even
mean,
worse. He had him under contract, and they tried to pull him back. It was crazy.
Yeah, it's so interesting too because that was so clear. Like, I remember sitting with my grandma and being like, "You're not gonna believe the tweet that just came out because of that tweet is so iconic. It probably haunts him. Like, those words." And the thing too is they've become such a meme, like, in the paddock, that people repeat them. The Red Bull admin has used them for, like, other situations. Like, I think it's hilarious.
It's been featured in, like, every motorsport. Like, I think Palou used it or something when he had a contract dispute, or there's, like, it's everywhere. Everybody in motorsport knows
do you think he knew how iconic it was going to be when he wrote it? Or do you think for him it was just a straightforward statement?
No, it was definitely straightforward, serious. It's just one of those things where, like, you gotta look back and laugh. But,
Yeah.
Almar looks back and cries, and now he's like...
Seems like Almar's having a good time, though. I don't know if he's crying.
No, he's having a lot of fun. Like, his Instagram, like I said, he's just showing every week where he's at, what he's doing.
Yeah.
He still knows everybody in the paddock, so he, like, pulls up every now and then. Like, I think he was at Miami. Do you think Alpine, like, shut him out from the the hospitality? Or do you think he gets some tickets out of it still?
I'm willing to bet.
Probably
a
after
good question.
Piastri, they definitely shut him out. Piastri probably doesn't like him either. So he's out of Alpine. He's out of McLaren. Aston Martin, he left. So I don't know where else he would go. I don't think he has any kudos in the paddock anymore.
Alpine's always open, right?
I don't know.
Always open. They fired him.
That's true.
I don't know. That's interesting. Speaking of Alpine, though, Esteban confirmed. We talked about it a lot last week, so I don't want to, like, dredge on it again. But just, like, final thoughts on this whole situation. Esteban to HAAS for 25.
Oh,
I mean, we've known it. Like it's been a mental deal for forever. Like, we've basically known this was gonna happen, but I don't know. I don't care about him at all. So, I think I speak for 90% of the Formula One fans that say, Esteban Ocon, who are you? Like, I mean, it's not even that. It's just
Who
like,
are you?
like he
Where do you
wins
even
one
finish
race and then
today?
that's all he's ever gonna get. I don't know. That's like
Right?
it's my
I
opinion.
will fight for him to say that he signed my phone case in Bahrain last year and was very, very nice. And every time I've been to a race and been to, like, been through there's, like, pit lane walks and, like, fan stage and stuff, Alpine is the group that's consistently coming down and signing autographs, where Mercedes won't, or Red Bull won't, or McLaren, like, they won't do it. Alpine does it every time. So I will say a little bit, I don't know if it's just a team thing, but I will give him props for being an okay guy, at least for fans and stuff. So
Well, there you go.
I mean, well, when you only have like 5 fans, it's not hard to entertain all of them. But
I was
mean,
golly.
it's, you know, just
Y'all ever read the Perez tweet from 2017?
no.
All 2017-18, he would keep crashing into Perez because they would fight ferociously, like he still does. But he posted today, if it wasn't for my... Hold on, I gotta read it verbatim, because he went off on Perez 2017. He went off on Perez. Tweet. It was really bad. All right, here it is. This is the tweet from the day. It was from... It posted a video of them crashing. It says, damage limitation today. We're having a good race until Perez tried to kill me 2 times. He didn't manage to do so, ending in P9. And there's Perez trying to kill him into the wall.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my
Yeah,
goodness.
I remember watching this live, and Perez pushed him in the wall. Ocon tried to sneak it up. What a guy. And he still has the Hungary win as his profile photo.
Oh yeah.
I
Oh my
wish
gosh.
done that, like, Silverstone 21. Been like, it was a great day until Lewis tried to kill me, but we're good. Like,
Oh
all
my
good. All
gosh.
good. No worries.
No
I just
way.
can't stop thinking about poor Ollie, man. I just can't stop thinking about it.
Yeah, poor guy's gonna have a tough time.
Oh,
for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's so interesting. Like, I just don't understand why they would make this. I understand that they probably want someone experienced, but there's so many options. And I think they kind of took so long waiting for signs when, like, be realistic with yourselves, because
But who else do you take? I mean, we already kind of talked about this.
No,
like,
yeah. It's true.
Nobody else wants to go to Haas unless you're Ocon, who just needs a seat.
I still think Ferrari and Haas has interest in, like, they should be investing in more, like, if they could get a double young driver lineup, like, I think that would have been great for them. Maybe. Again, we've seen that.
But like
We've seen.
what other Ferrari Jr.?
Well, I'm not saying necessarily a Ferrari Jr. themselves. We can poach. Why not poach? Poach from another team.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it happens, dude. I would say then, but again, we've seen, like, when Nikita Mazepin and Mick Schumacher were teammates, that was a failure. Like, that was awful, right? So maybe it's better that they do have one senior, like, kind
What
of
is
like
Mick doing?
What is Mick doing? I don't know.
I mean,
What
He
is
stands
Mick?
in the back of the garage. He's still a Mercedes test driver. Now he's a good test driver. He drives for Alpine in World Endurance. He still drives. He's a good driver. But I don't know if he's F1 caliber. Toto Wolff still backs him, but Toto Wolff is obviously not going to put him in the car anytime soon.
No.
Nor is he really in the running for.
yeah.
Is he in the running for Williams? Maybe,
No.
but we all know Sainz is probably going there. If not Sainz, it's Bottas.
Yeah.
And you take either of them over Mick.
I would
right
take
now.
Sainz over Mick any day of the week.
Yeah.
I would take
Or
Valtteri.
Bottas for that matter.
Yeah. I would take Valtteri over Mick. I think just Valtteri's so consistent. Valtteri's another option that if they had jumped like early enough, they could have taken him. I also like if I had to pick between Kevin Magnussen and Esteban Ocon, I would have picked Kevin Magnussen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I think that's fair.
it was like a decision where K-Mag's like, I'm done, which is very rare in F1, where unless you're like, I don't know, Seb and you're starting into like that their older stage of your career and you're like, I'm done and retire kind of on your own terms. I didn't feel like that was the case for him. Like he's just leaving the team.
Yeah.
And I feel like why not keep someone who's been around the team for so long and that's working well as a teammate? Like, has he crashed a bit? Yeah. Has he had some very questionable moves this year? Sure. But at the end of the day, he's playing the team game, and he nurtured Mick when Mick came in. So I feel like it would have worked out well.
Yeah. Well, I feel like, too, I think K-Mag would be a better mentor than Esteban will be.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that as well.
Yeah.
The ST bestie.
ST bestie.
Oh, heck no.
You think he's the kind of guy who would pretend to only speak French? Like,
Oh.
when somebody goes to me like, hey, how's it going?
Absolutely.
And he
Absolutely.
Anyways,
Man.
like the media is like, oh, you crashed into Perez.
Je
And he like runs away.
Anyways, let's move into the race weekend. There's a lot of things to talk about.
Yep.
Before we get into like quality in the race, I want to really quickly just mention, because I thought this was really funny. FP3 rolls around. It's chucking it down. So Lance Stroll decides he's going to take a spin. Normal.
Yep. You know, usually.
Flag.
As you do.
Red flag. It's green flagged again. No one goes out. So in the meantime, they start commentating on the karting race that's going down the other side on the karting track. These like 13-year-old kids are karting and you can't go out. Like, I mean, tires and whatnot. But anyways, I just thought that
No,
was
yeah.
there.
Yeah.
Nah,
Was
the
there
only
a
reason
whole
they
thing?
did that is because Max was on there. You know, he can't stop racing, and they took away his simulator. So this is the next best thing. So he's out there, always on the cart.
Marco, could I
He
go
like,
out
he
of the
like
way
keeps
to
his
waste
helmet
cost,
on
please?
so nobody knows who he is. He like he turns all the Red Bull clothes inside out to like try to hide his identity.
Dad, who's this extremely large 13-year-old getting in a cart next to me? Oh my gosh. Wasn't there a whole thing too where like a kid spun or something like that and he would never live it down because it was shown on TV?
I think so. It was
Yeah.
like being commentated on by F1 commentators. They were just sitting there watching it because they're like, what else are we going to do? Like, there's nothing going on.
Yeah.
And so they started talking, like, just commentating on the race. So I'm sure that guy will never live down the fact that his first ever time, like, assuming if he even got to F1 or anything, like, a lot of the kids, they don't. Like, there's so little seats, right? It's like the only time I ever got to be on F1 television, I was getting, like, destroyed and spun out in the rain.
You're going to see like one of those things. It's like, you remember that kid who spun out on F1 and Spa on F1 TV? This is him now.
Then and now videos.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Anyway,
He's now an entrepreneur.
I like that you mentioned the Max Sim stuff because that was for me really funny going into qualifying at the end, where he goes, "Well, last weekend in Spa, I raced 24 hours of Spa with mixed conditions, and now I qualify 6/10 the rest of you riffraff. So now who's the idiot? I'm sorry, but I said this last week, and I will say it again. The comments were so dumb. Max
oh my gosh.
fast.
He killed it in quali. Like, I couldn't believe how fast he was going. He 6/10, let alone his teammate. Like, what was it, over a second to his
I think
teammate?
so. Yeah.
In the rain, his teammate was like, all right, it wasn't over second. His teammate was technically third place.
Yeah, but
I don't
throughout
even know what the
qualifying,
gap was,
I don't remember either. But
but it was
throughout
big.
qualifying, it was the gap to Checo was bigger. Checo was almost knocked out in Q2. He made it by 3/1000ths or 100. Yeah, I think it was 1,000ths of a second.
Yeah, it was over 6/10 to Perez. Crazy.
So that's still a big gap.
Yeah.
And about Perez, we can talk about Perez because we talked about him saving his career, about him doing his like last ditch effort here at Spa. It kind of happened, lined up on the first row of the grid, but
It did until the race happened.
Until the race happened, yeah. I was like,
Yeah, going from 2 to 8th and letting your teammate that started 11th beat you is
it's crazy.
devastating.
Yeah, I will say they kind of did him dirty with that pit strategy. But
But even still, George was successful on the one stop.
nah, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's embarrassing. Like for Checo to start second and not only finish, I think he ended up finishing 7th because of, we'll talk about George Russell's disqualification. So
Yeah.
he starts second, finished 7th, and not to mention he finished 7th, but he also 2 laps at the end of the race had such a big gap that it didn't matter if he pitted, because he pitted to take the fastest lap away from Lando Norris to help Max in the championship, which in that case, playing the team game, I'm sure the team were happy. But like, you have that much of a gap that you can do that without any consequences is a little bit crazy. So I would be, but I'm a certifiable Checo hater, so like I can't. You take what I say with the greatest salt.
Hard carry.
We all are at this point.
Very hard.
That's why we
Checo-
named the podcast to like the
Checo
Checo
Hate
Hate Club.
Yeah.
Hey. I mean, hey, we don't even know if
Crazy.
Checo's gonna be there anymore. I mean,
It's
I'm sure
also
we're getting to it later, but I'll give you a little preview. I don't think he did enough.
No, yeah. Agreed.
Is it, but okay, there's a difference. Do you think he did enough or not? But that's a completely different question than is he going to be racing in Zandvoort?
Oh wow! I mean,
Those-
considering how Marco said, it sounds like probably not. Considering, I mean, if you believe they didn't do enough, and that if him and Marco said, if he didn't do enough, then a decision would be made after this race. So, personally, I think he should. I think he should be gone, but we'll see.
It's so difficult though. Red Bull doesn't I feel like Red Bull makes these decisions, but also doesn't make these decisions. There's certain drivers that they love so much. I thought it was interesting too because I saw a lot of things about people talking rumors that Red Bull never wanted Danny Rick to be in VCarb for 2025, let alone the end of this year. So it was very like either he goes to Red Bull or he's replaced by Liam Lawson. And that's the end of it.
Ricardo is very much Horner's guy.
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
Horner talked a lot about when Ricardo left. Like he was shocked. He wished he could come back. He's always fun. And I saw Horner. Well, actually, I read it. Read Horner's interview after a race, and he said on Checo, like, "Oh, going 2 to 8th is obviously not ideal, not what we need." And when pressed on if Checo would be leaving or not, and if he's continuing, he's like, "Nobody wants to make that decision. He's a great guy. Nobody wants to make that decision." So
but it's gotta
that whole tone is not good.
No, it's got to be made. I think it's funny too because they keep asking Checo about it as if he's gonna say anything. And
Checo, just say you're gonna be gone. Just say it. Just say it.
Yeah, he was so mad after the race, and Max and not Max and Checo, and he goes. He tells the interviewer, he's like, "I'm not answering questions about this anymore. I've already spoken about it, and I'm not speaking about it again."
After qualifying, they're like, "Are you staying after summer break?" He's like, "I'm 100% driving past the Belgium Grand Prix," which is a big statement, but we've seen crazier things happen in motorsport. Heck, IndyCar, McLaren's as the crazy bad boy reputation they made in IndyCar, they just cut a guy like as he was going to the race, Theo Pourchaire. He was all set to go to Laguna Seca, made a tweet like, "I'm going to Laguna Seca, see you there," and then they cut him. I don't know.
Cutthroat
Crazier
industry,
things
man.
have happened.
I mean, it happened like with Palou, right? Palou had his whole contract deal. And then there was also, I mean, look at it in Formula One this year, Ocon, right before we went to Canada, right? He was like, "Oh yeah, no, the team is good. Like I'm in the seat, blah 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 blah." And then like the next day, he's like, "Esteban Ocon out at Alpine."
Yeah. I mean, I think ultimately now that we've like seen all the interviews, that was kind of like a mutual decision. But it happens like a lot. Like it's not the first time, and especially with Red Bull, which is why this situation like angers me to another level. Because if it was any other driver, he would have been so long gone. But for some reason, Christian Horner has a soft spot for him. And I don't know if that's completely the case, or maybe he has something over Red Bull. I've said this so many times, people are probably going to hate me for it. But I feel like he has some kind of like blackmail, something that he's holding over Red Bull. Because like, come on, you're terrible. How do you still have a seat? I just don't get it.
It's almost getting to like Lance Stroll levels of like why. Like we know.
Well, okay, I think we all know why Lance Stroll is still there.
No. Like that's what I'm saying is we know the why for Lance. Like, but like, what is the why? Like, I'm agreeing with Marina. I'm like, I feel like there's got to be some crucial puzzle piece idea behind having Checo in that seat that we just don't know. There's something that is like, listen, I don't know. Maybe he's maybe him and the what's it called, Horner's wife are having an affair or something like that, and they can't. I don't know. Dude, there could be something. There's something there. I don't know.
Yeah.
I might have to go full detective mode on this. We're gonna have to figure this out ASAP.
It's all just gonna come out in the new Drive to Survive season.
Yeah. I hope so, because they've been fed such a good season this year, and I feel like we say that a couple times. Like back in 2021, I said that, and the Drive to Survive in 2021 was horrible, in my opinion, at least. They were fed so much drama, and they used none of it. They just created a bunch of fake drama.
Yep.
If they create fake drama this year, I will never watch Drive to Survive again, because like, come on, you have it's all handed right to you.
Yep.
So they have the perfect storylines plural for this year. So we'll see what happens with that, but
yeah.
Another big thing for quali was the McLaren's just. I think Will Buxton, he said it was McLaren's race to lose, and that's exactly what they did.
Well, it's been that way the last few weeks, unfortunately.
The Mercedes came out of nowhere, really.
Yeah.
I'm only wearing this shirt because it's kind of funny. George got disqualified. Crazy race, and future Ferrari driver Lewis Hamilton won. So.
I mean, we're not talking about it, but past 4 races, 3 of them have been won by Mercedes. So,
yeah,
insane.
And that's not just by one driver, too. I mean, George took one of the wins. Lewis now has 2.
Yeah.
And that technically George was supposed to win as well, but, it's something we're really not talking about. I don't think they're going to be contenders at all, like for the individual championship. But, I mean, that Constructors is looking closer.
Well, how many races are we in? Like, are we only halfway?
14. This is 14.
All right, so a little bit more than halfway. I mean, Red Bull would really need to fall behind for them to
up for grabs. Like if you won every race, you'd score 250 points moving forward. As a driver. Yeah. So there's still like a long way to go. I was looking at it. If Max won every race after the summer break and Lando was second, if Lando won every race after the summer break and Max was second, Max would still win the championship by 8 points.
Interesting.
So it's going to be really difficult. I think Zach Brown said it. Zach said it's hard at this point for anyone to beat Max, even with the current form of Red Bull, because he gave himself such a good lead at the beginning and he doesn't DNF. A bad day for Max Verstappen was P4 today. That's a bad day for Max Verstappen. It's been since Canada, and I want to say it's the French Grand Prix 2019, since there were 2 consecutive races without Max Verstappen on the podium.
What's crazy is there's 4 teams, and that makes it even harder. 4 teams that can win a race: Ferrari, McLaren, Mercedes, and Red Bull. At the start of the year, it was really only Red Bull. So Max had that huge string of wins, and now it's a different winner every weekend. Yeah. Nobody's going to have the consistency to score as many wins as you need to beat Max.
Yeah.
I mean, it could happen. McLaren could get faster. Mercedes can get faster. Ferrari, who knows? Maybe they get faster. It's hard to call, but it'd almost be a shock if Verstappen didn't win the drivers. They'll probably lose the constructors, so to either McLaren or Mercedes.
But also, how crazy is it? We're talking about the potential for Max to lose a championship. Given rewind 6-7 podcasts ago, before Miami, it was a done deal, right?
Yeah.
And then Lando, that switch that flipped, that now it's, well, I guess you had the Australian GP win with Carlos, but it wasn't anything like Max is not going to win the championship or anything. It was just that one race and they got on top of it. But then you have Lando winning and then Charles and George, and it's been so consistent. And I like they said it because Max said that in his post-race interview too. He's like, I'm not overly worried about the drivers. It's a possibility that someone takes it from me, but I'm not overly worried about it because there's so many teams fighting for it and you never know what's going to take the win. And more importantly, what driver, because besides Red Bull, Sainz and Leclerc are a strong pairing. You never know who's going to take the cake from them. Lewis and George are very strong as well. Oscar and Lando, you never know who's going to win. So they're taking points away from each other within the same team as well. So
like a McLaren Mercedes what's it called, allyship here.
Yeah.
I mean, you go all the way back in time. I didn't mean to cut you off there, Steve.
No, you're good.
We could go back to the beginning of this podcast and we started it last year. And I mean, my initial feelings and stuff like that, we talked about this. It's like, wow, this is a kind of sucky time to get into F1 because it's boring as hell. Like, it's the one guy's winning every race, stuff like that. And then before we even, obviously we did some of last season and then we started this season completely in. And before the season started, all of us had conversations. We're like, well, let's see how this year goes. It's probably going to be the same old song and dance. And now I'm potentially witnessing what could be one of the greatest F1 seasons that we will see. Maybe.
Yeah.
I think it's really good.
21.
It's been so enjoyable to watch. I mean, again, a lot of landmark things have happened, like Charles finally winning Monaco. I mean, Lando got his first win. All sorts of historical things have happened. So I don't mean to get romanticize it right now, but it's been really it's been an eye opener, 100%.
Yeah.
Steven kind of nailed it on the head. He's like, "Oh, McLaren are going to win everything this year," and they started out slow, but now they're really coming up. And the only reason they wouldn't is not if Red Bull get in their way, but if Mercedes,
as if they, well, I was going to say if they get in their own way.
Yeah,
in their own way, yeah.
Yeah.
Too.
You talked about Mercedes winning through the last 4 races. The difference right now between McLaren and Mercedes is that Mercedes can be more consistent. Mercedes is fought at the top. They know how to win.
Yeah, they're experienced. That's the main difference.
And more importantly, Lando Norris learning how to win, learning how to fight at the top, learning how to fight against Max Verstappen. Lewis has done it before. He knows what it takes to beat Max. Because even on weekends where they're not the favorite, we see how fast Max can be in qualifying. In the race, arguably wasn't one of his best races, but he didn't have the car advantage. He still finished 4th from P11.
Yep.
So you still need to know how to beat Max. And the only way you're going to do that is through experience. So maybe this isn't Lando's year, but maybe next year will be. Yep. So McLaren's just got to learn how to fight for the top spot.
Yeah. I mean, if not this year, like you said, next year, I mean, if they just keep on going in the trajectory they're going, we're going to see a Red Bull type season coming out of McLaren next year. I'm calling it right now.
Even Mercedes. I mean, they're ramping up real quick, real close.
And then this all can get changed with the engine regulations. This can all go on its,
we're going to have the Ford in the Red Bull. We're going to have
be great.
The Honda in the Aston Martin. We're going to have Renault being sold to Andretti.
God, I hope so.
Man, that'd be awesome.
That'd be great for American Formula One. I think there's not a better time for an American manufacturer to make it to F1.
No, you're spot on.
It's not a better time. I was talking about it with my dad this morning because when I arrived in Brazil, I was walking through the airport, and obviously there's the Grand Prix here, and I want to say it's end of October, November, and they already had signs up and stuff, and I started to think about it because I had read articles earlier talking about how F1 and COTA were requesting that if people weren't going to be able to use their tickets that they had already bought, F1 would buy them back.
Wow.
At the same cost that you did it because they got M&M. So the performances are getting higher and higher quality. We had Queen with Adam Lambert last year when I was there. They're getting better and better, and the attendance at COTA is 500,000 people.
Yeah, they basically sell out, and that's why F1 is trying to buy it back. They realize wait, we could sell this for a way higher price and still sell out. We'll buy them back from you.
Yeah.
And there's
Yeah.
ads being sent out. I couldn't believe it that we'll buy back your ticket. But
Yeah.
that's isolated to COTA. Like COTA is more accessible price wise and attendance wise because there's just so many more people
Yeah.
than Miami. Like Miami's way too high. They could barely sell tickets. Like Marina, don't you get bombarded by like ticket sales stuff?
I get calls from Miami GP ticket
They
office
call
all
you.
the time. I don't know when it was. Maybe I put my phone number somewhere. Maybe I was like, I remember looking at tickets to see like just as an estimate how much it was because, and I will say this because you talk about COTA's so affordable compared to Miami. Like Miami GP tickets are like $1,500 at a
Yeah,
minimum.
that's why they can't sell them.
But COTA is like
Yeah.
you get COTA tickets if you buy them early enough for like $300, $250 for the 3-day weekend. And the general admission in COTA is the best. Like that for me, that's the best race to
Yep.
go to. I've been to a lot of races. That's the best race to go to because
Yeah.
you can go anywhere. You can watch the race. You can watch the race from one point. You can watch quality from another. Especially now with the sprint, you can watch the sprint and sprint quality, like each from a different corner. You could walk the whole track. So they have I feel like the leverage over Miami in that sense, whereas like they can sell more tickets because they're cheaper. They have the higher attendance. But I do think those ticket prices are going to go up. So
Yep.
we'll see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Another
We're gonna get
reason as
more
to why street courses suck.
Yeah.
There's like
Yeah.
3 that matter, and that's it.
Yeah. Well,
Alright,
I mean, I think
When's Baku?
that's a good question.
That is
That's
such
always a good one. I feel like they pushed it later this year.
Love
It
Baku.
isn't a. Yeah.
I gotta check the calendar. I don't remember.
Did it already pass and it's like that forgettable?
No.
Oh no, it's when is it?
November? No.
September 13th to 15th. Yeah, the 15th.
Yes, it's right
Wow.
after summer break.
Oh.
Right
have
after
Netflix.
Zandvoort.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I was pretty sure it was right after Denver. But let's talk about the race. I have race talking points because man, was this one an interesting one. It's funny because I feel like
Something.
a lot of the race was like quite boring, let's say, compared to other races we've had recently. But then there was like the peak points, whereas like the very beginning was like really enticing at the end. Can I be hypercritical of Lando as to say that he needs to work on his starts because
Oh,
he lost
please, by all means.
how many races
He needs to work on it. It's bad.
bad. It's really bad.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know what it is. I mean, well, I think it's just him being overly aggressive. I think that's what the main problem is. But
Yeah, my
Like the
dad
Mercedes
said-
engine doesn't have an issue starting like the
Yeah.
Hondas used to, or even the Renaults. Like I remember Max Verstappen, like even 2019, 2020, always a slow start. Like on pole didn't matter. Like I think it was Austria 2019. He went from like second to like sixth because the Honda was just so slow off the line.
Yeah.
And but obviously the Mercedes doesn't have that issue.
yeah, yeah.
No, not the Mercedes. And I think you said it perfectly, Stephen. My dad was talking about this too. Lando needs to be a little less aggressive on the start and worry about his own start. Because right now I
Yeah.
think he's
Yep.
spending so much time and energy covering off other people that, like, for example, last race he tried so hard to cover out Oscar that he left the door wide open for Max to
Right.
slip behind him and overtake him around the outside into turn one. So I'm so hypercritical of him. And I guess this is like many things that, again, like we talked about with McLaren, Lando's got to learn how to win.
Yeah.
He's getting there because I think every race has got a little bit better, but just that start, he lost everything at that start because he ended up basically right in front of Max Verstappen and just
Yeah.
sat there for the rest of the race.
That was also extremely frustrating, might I say. I was watching like the leaderboard, just like I think it was hovering around like 7/10. Just like, okay, let's see, can we get down to 6? Okay, now we're down to 6. Now let's get down to 5. Okay, now we're down to 5. I think at one point it got down to 1 with like I think it was like second or third lap to go. And
Yeah.
he just couldn't get there. It was so frustrating to watch. And he had like
It was
6
both-
lap new tires or something. It was like,
Yeah, he had a tire delta, but Max had a tire delta last week. We saw it doesn't really work that well. I feel like
yeah.
I think the commentator said it, or maybe it was Bernie Collins who was saying that it doesn't matter what strategy you use in Spa, assuming that you're not going to do like a George Russell 1-stop. If you're all on a 2-stop, it doesn't matter when you pit and what tires you use. You just have to be the fastest car on track, because you can overtake quite easily. But if you don't have the speed advantage, it's impossible. There's nothing you can do. And that's why Lando and Max are so evenly matched right now, that Max spent half the race behind him in the first stint, and then Lando spent the rest of the half behind Max. Second stint. So it's so frustrating. And I hate how the comments were talking about it at the end. They were focused on the Mercedes, and I was sitting there looking at the leaderboard like, oh my God, what is happening?
That's what I'm saying. I'm just looking at the times. I'm like, we have a battle here.
Yeah, and Max DRS on Charles as well. So it was getting close. And I'm thinking, well, Max can just overtake Charles, then he'll put some gap between him and Lando.
Yeah.
But he couldn't get close. And at one point, he even lost DRS. And I was like, oh no, this is where Lando makes the move.
Yeah.
And he just couldn't get done.
Yeah. The other thing is, too, I would say, I don't know if you all heard this, it made me cringe when I don't remember if it was the first round at pit stops or the second. With Piastri, they had the radio come on, and his engineer was like, okay, what do you think? What do you think, Piastri? What do you think, Oscar? Plan A or play B? I'm like, oh no, here we go again.
It's PTSD. It's total PTSD. It's when I see Lando and Max next together, I'm like, no. Can we just keep it? Like, especially because, and I'm pretty sure, and I apologize to all of you guys, but also people that watch the pod, that I had a lot of logistical nightmares this weekend, and didn't post the predictions video. It was edited. It was ready. It was on my phone, ready to post, and I did not put it up. But in the video, I said, and if you watch last pod, you hear me say that I felt like there was going to be some type of altercation between Max and Lando on track. And technically there wasn't a crash, but they did spend most of the race right next to each other. So there was that. I just kept thinking like, oh my God, what am I going to do?
Yeah. So, I mean, you know what though? I am proud of Lando, I will say, for not trying a dive bomb. I'm proud of him for that.
I am too. Also,
there's some maturity there.
There is, absolutely. What about George, the Mercedes? They were super quick.
Oh, you mean the cheaters?
Stop call.
What?
Oh!
Their skills are just broken.
Skills are broken.
I would say masterful drive from him, again proving he is a top tier driver. He made that call too. He's like, hey, I want to try out the 1-stop, and it worked. Sometimes he makes different strategy calls that goes against what the team is thinking at the moment, but usually it works out okay for him. And obviously today it worked out really good.
Yeah.
Until I don't know, maybe some bolts fell off his car. I don't know. But obviously not good that he's underweight. But another win, again, like I said before, for Lewis.
Yep.
It can be great to see him in red next year. So
they what do they call him? The tire whisperer, George?
Yep.
Mr. Saturday is now the tire whisperer. Ooh.
Yeah. I saw that.
He used to be the tire whisperer. It's like he took Prez's title.
Yeah. Well, Prez was the Mexican Minister of Defense, and when I was watching the race, I kept saying, why can't you just be the Mexican Minister of Defense again? I wanted to get Prez behind him, and he just let him, like, it was the worst overtake I've ever seen. He just let him through. Like, it was just like, you know what, you can go. Like, I'm not gonna fight.
One race in 2021, and that was it.
Just the one that really, really mattered. It's the only race I will forever be indebted to Sergio Perez for that race. But other than that, we're part of the Checo hate club.
Yeah.
That one race.
Yeah.
So,
I don't know about y'all. I felt bad, but like I was definitely rooting for him to go down in positions there.
I was waiting for Ricardo to catch up. He almost did. Perez finished 7th, Ricardo 10th. Like,
yep.
He did finish in the points, yeah.
Ricardo
that would have been really funny.
Can you imagine if Danny Rick had finished ahead of Checo?
I think Helmut would have made the call right then and there.
Would have told media.
I think Corner would have too.
You think so?
He would have let him know over the radio call. Like, be like, Checo, enjoy it's your last lap in a F1 car.
Did you ever think that the Mercedes would invert? Like, if we had one more lap, like say it was a 45-lap race instead of 44, do you think they would have made the call to invert to protect against Oscar Piastri, or do you think they were just...
I don't know. It's hard to.
They don't want them bad McLaren PR. Just gonna let McLaren handle that stuff. And
Well, they made that
I don't
decision
know.
to let him fight, and they said, "Hey, you're free. Just remember, leave the cars with," and that was it.
Yeah.
And they let him fight. So
I mean, I think
kudos to
they're
them.
so endlessly matched anyway. I mean, of course, there's always the risk of George, blowing a tire or something, but
yeah,
I don't know.
I think George would have had no defense if it came to it, and like Lewis was gaining like crazy, which he was faster, just couldn't get the move done. And they even
Yep.
shortened the DRS zone on the Kemmel Straight right after Eau Rouge and Radion.
yeah.
Did you
That
guys?
definitely did not help in overtakes today, but it did
Mhm.
help George keep Lewis behind. So
Did you guys see that Stake was probably going to get their first point of the season, but then they pitted Bottas with like I don't even know how many laps to go.
wow.
I think I remember I saw that, and I also Joe when you DNF'd, so it would have been
Yeah.
Yeah,
They kind of
So-
did the opposite of Mercedes, I feel like, because Mercedes, they pitted, I'm pretty sure they pitted right around the time Mercedes would have had to pit George Russell and bring him in, and he would have dropped down to 5th.
yeah.
And they were like, you know what, let's just stick it out, Hail Mary for the ones. Honestly, if his tire had punctured, it would have been pretty much the same outcome as right now. So
Yep.
they had
That is true. That is very true.
because again, we mentioned it, George being disqualified, and so Lewis inherits the win. And I hate when they're disqualified post race for something so simple. I also hate that Charles Leclerc didn't get to go on the podium because it's been a hot minute, and so I would have
Yep.
liked him on the podium. I hate when that happens. Like,
Yeah.
I don't care if there's something like a penalty that applies post race, but when there's drivers that like I don't know if it was like Carlos Sainz who got either his first podium or his first podium with McLaren, and he didn't
Yes,
even
first
go on the
podium.
podium because
Yeah.
he's got the trophy after, and I hate when that happens. Like,
Yeah.
it's
No, that's fair.
so I don't
It's
know.
like the F1 equivalent of a race ending under yellow.
I mean,
Yeah, pretty
nothing
much.
was worse than what was it? The Argentina, where they playing Morocco match, where they disallowed an Argentine goal like an hour after the match ended, or something crazy. It took
Yeah.
them, the Olympic Committee officials, like over an hour to disallow a goal and give Morocco the win.
Oh man.
And I hope that never happens in F1, which we've come close a couple of times, but
Yeah.
Lewis is still fighting for it.
The I was gonna say the closest I
Good
can
one,
think is
Steven.
I was gonna, the closest I can think of is George Russell and Fernando Alonso. Was that what? Jeddah, or it was a street circuit. It was Jeddah or Singapore, where it was for P3, and then they gave him penalty, and then they take it away, and then they gave it back, and that it all ended up happening. I don't know if it was the day after or like much after. I think the trophy went home with Fernando and then had to be brought back to George, or vice versa.
I remember that. I remember seeing that on socials.
Yeah, that's like the closest thing I can think
Here you
of.
go. Here's your trophy, bud.
there's been a couple other crazy ones in the past. Like I think it was Heinz-Harald Frentzen and Kimi Räikkönen. Like Kimi won the race, but then there's a red flag. So the order they finish under the red flag actually goes back a lap to right before the red flag started, and Heinz-Harald Frentzen was leading. So he won in Brazil. I think it was Brazil. And so they did a whole ceremony the next week where Kimi showed up with a car and the trophy, and Heinz-Harald Frentzen showed up in his Jordan and received the trophy from Kimi. So,
Oh my
yeah,
gosh.
I remember that as like the biggest example. But at least he
The-
got a ceremony. Lewis didn't get anything. He just kind of took the second one home. And what does he have to do? Like mail it to Piastri? You know?
The ever vast well of knowledge that is Jason Agnoli's brain is crazy.
I will never understand. And
Like,
it's
what-
not even
what
just
was
F1, it's knowledge, all kinds of motorsport. It's amazing. It's phenomenal.
Oh, yeah.
I give you so many props. I can't. My brain doesn't function that far back into time.
No.
Oh,
Yeah,
well,
with
thanks.
NASCAR, but that's about it.
Yeah, no.
Like maybe 2020 F1. That's like the furthest. Maybe 2019.
Okay.
But I can't go anything further than that. This man just pulls stuff straight out of his brain from like the 1900s. Like I swear. So
So
that's
those good Steiner books, man.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Gunther. Yeah, he's my favorite source to cite in all my research papers.
all right.
Gotta blur out like half of it because all the words he says, but you know.
Yeah, you know.
Yeah, him and Max. Do you hear the FIA? They're trying to they want teams to tell drivers to stop cussing.
Yeah,
And
I did see that.
So Max goes, well, then just turn
Ain't
off.
no way.
Like, I'm not
Yeah.
gonna stop speaking the way I speak because people have an issue. Like, you have an issue with it. If people have an issue with the way I speak, they can just not listen to my team radio.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I know
it's pretty simple.
they mentioned it. I don't know if this was F2 or F3. They did talk about this a lot because they like to show certain team radios throughout the race, and it was so hard for the F3, the live coverage to put radios up because all they did was cuss. Every single team radio had cussing in it. So I guess that's a bit to the extreme. But
Yeah.
when a driver is driving at 300, how are you gonna control what they say? They're allowed to be a little bit aggressive and cuss.
Yeah.
And all athletes do it in high stress situations. Like Horner made the point, oh, you put up to a footballer's mouth, no way. Or even sometimes they have hot mics with golfers.
Yeah.
It's not
my
good
God,
either because they have all the mics pointed at them for their shots, so they get the sound of the club hitting the ball.
Yeah.
But then you also pick up whatever the golfer says, and if it's a bad shot, you're gonna hear.
Well,
Yeah, man.
there was this one, again, this will be my little tidbit of useless NASCAR knowledge. But there was this one instance where Kyle Busch had to serve a penalty. He came down pit road and he had to sit in his box. And literally in front of him was a NASCAR official, holding him in the box like this, right? And he's just flipping him off with both fingers through the windshield. And then he goes back on track. And then NASCAR comes back to him, to his crew chief, tells him he needs to come in for another penalty for doing that.
Oh,
Kyle goes over the radio. He's like, they're messing with my freedom of speech. They're breaking the Constitution. And then his crew chief's like, Kyle, stop! Go off the road right now.
You've been a bad boy.
It's like GP last weekend when he was like, stop being childish.
Exactly.
That's the exact
Oh my
that
gosh.
was the best. I love that. Anyways, before we end off, last minute thoughts pre-summer break for Carlos Sainz contract. Where is he headed?
Well, I mean, it sounds like Williams. I don't want to believe that, but
I don't
either.
that either.
But
I think that's just going to be the way it is, unfortunately.
he's gonna be wearing one of these pretty soon.
I feel bad for him. I mean, I think it's probably going to be a 1-year contract or something. I mean, the way I understand it, it sounds like it's going to be a contract where he's going to have the option to opt out of it if he gets an offer from Mercedes or Red Bull. But
This is a terrible contract idea. Williams has no security in that. Because
no, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
at least they understand the context of the situation.
I mean,
It's
would he even take a pay cut? He's obviously going to take a pay cut no matter what team he goes
he
to.
doesn't need he doesn't need money. His dad has a lot of money and he's made a lot of
Some of these dudes, I feel like we don't know about them, but their egos get to them maybe a little bit. It's I don't want to race for pennies at Williams.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same thing in all motorsports. Yeah,
Welcome to Logan Sargent's world.
Yeah. He should just be happy.
Don't forget, everyone else gets a lot of the guys live in Monaco, so they don't have to pay taxes on what they earn. And because if you live outside of your country, of any country except for North Korea and the United States, you don't pay taxes. But if you live in Monaco, but you're a U.S. citizen, you still pay U.S. taxes. So Logan is one of the least paid drivers on the grid and probably gets 60% of his paycheck.
Yeah.
Maybe even less.
Stroll probably just gets a boost in his allowance when he does well. He probably doesn't even have a contract, right? You think he gets an extra cookie for dessert after dinner or something?
Here you go, Lawrence.
We'll go to Bali this weekend. You are allowed.
Dad, can I take the yacht this weekend, please? Yay!
While I get the quote of the day, besides Sainz, we always do next race prediction. So one prediction for the summer break. Anything but Sainz.
Anything but
Is this a hot take or just a prediction in general?
Anything. Give me a hot take.
I mean, I'm just going to say Perez is going to go.
Yeah,
No, that's
Checo
fair.
out.
I think. Do we know if Joe has a contract like for a couple of
Does
years?
not.
I think they're
Ooh.
gonna announce that he's out. Like I think that's my big one. I don't know why. It's not a big one. Again, he's been useless, but it's
It's
I
true.
don't know. I've been really
What if
mean
Mick
today.
goes there?
I've been really
Let's talk about
mean.
this part.
What did I say? I called Joe useless. I said Alpine has no fans. Sergio Perez is in the Sergio Perez hate club.
Tell me how you really
It's
feel, Tristan.
ruthless. You know what? I'm going to stick to it. Joe, you're losing your seat. He's out of there.
Oh my god.
100%. What do you got, Jason?
Yeah.
That's a really good one. Guan Yu out. I wouldn't be surprised. I think we're
Yeah.
gonna find out Sainz's future. I think he's finally gonna make up his mind
Hmm.
that he's going over to Williams, and Bottas is just gonna cry softly and resign with Sauber. So I think those are that combo deal is happening.
That's
There
fair.
you go. I'm surprised you didn't say Logan's charged to IndyCar.
That's what I'm
Oh.
going to say.
I
So-
think that's like a sealed deal. I think that's definitely happening.
I
Yeah.
think Checo confirmed out and Danny Rick to Red Bull for the rest of the season.
I hope
Wow.
so.
Liam Lawson
Trial
to
run.
V-Corp.
I like
There
that.
you go.
Both Kevin Magnussen and Logan Sargent announced for IndyCar.
Okay, interesting.
I like that.
At Prima?
All right.
You're going to say they're probably at Prima?
Logan, yes.
Okay.
But I don't know about K-Mag. I don't
Yeah.
know where he would go. But
Logan to Arrow McLaren.
But yeah, all right. Quote of the day. This is not from a Belgian Grand Prix.
Very
so
good.
fuck with that. For anyone who thought I left, I never left.
Ricardo.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, I knew that was
In
an
honor
icon.
of his
Yeah.
point today.
Oh, good for
100%.
him.
On
I was going to say, Google
I-
just updated it, so he is in the points.
There we go.
yeah, we filmed right after the thing. Like, I was looking to make sure that the constructors' points for the notes were correct too, because they hadn't updated the race results yet. So now they've updated. But 78 points between Max and Lando. So I guess we're gonna wait and see
So wait and see.
post summer break. With that, thank you guys for watching. We will be back. We're usually back every Monday, 11:30 Eastern Time, but stay tuned on our socials. We will announce whether or not we are going to be doing pods throughout the summer break, depending on news and whatnot. In between now and then, our Instagram and our TikTok at Lights Out Latest are always there. Tech Tuesday, Wag Wednesday, Throwback Thursday, Fun Fact Friday, some Man on the Streets, predictions, podcast clips, you name it, we've got it. Thank you guys so much for watching. Bye, guys.
Thank you.